What if your absolute lowest moment, I mean the point of complete and total desperation, what if that was actually the beginning of something incredible? Well, that's the story of Chris Bledsoe. He's a man who says an unbelievable encounter not only turned his life upside down, but also revealed a message that's meant for all of us. And that's really the question at the heart of all this. See, Chris Bledsoe wasn't some UFO hunter out there with night vision goggles. His story starts with him on his knees at the end of his rope, just crying out to the universe for any kind of help.
So, to really understand just how massive this story is, we have to look at who Chris Bledsoe was before any of this ever happened.
Yeah, this was not some New Age guru looking for cosmic answers. By his own admission, Chris was a rough, tough country boy. He'd been a very successful businessman, but he'd lost it all. On top of that, he was fighting this horrible, incurable disease. He was a family man who felt like a complete failure. He had nothing left. And right there, in that moment of pure desperation back in January of 2007, something answered him. He and his sons saw these things. And we're not talking about distant little lights in the sky. These were massive, blazing, fiery orbs that felt totally real and, frankly, terrifying.
And then something happened that's just impossible. Right after this encounter, the Crohn's disease that had been destroying his life for years, it was just gone, completely. This miraculous healing was the first real sign that this wasn't just a weird sighting. It was the start of a much, much bigger story. And that story has been unfolding for well over a decade. That first contact and the healing in 2007, that was just the opening act. It was followed by years of difficulty and confusion, which led to this huge moment in 2012 when a being he calls the Lady finally appeared. That set him on a whole new mission, and it all seems to be pointing towards something really big on the horizon.
Okay, so this brings us to the real heart of it, the message he was apparently given to share. But what's so fascinating is that for 5 long years after that first incredible event, he didn't get a clear, beautiful message. He got something much, much darker.
For 5 years, Bledsoe was shown these horrifying visions of war, of destruction, what he could only describe as a kind of biblical Armageddon. And as if that wasn't enough, his own community, his church, they ridiculed him. The pressure was so bad that by 2012, he was ready to just quit, to never talk about it again. He was done.
And that's when the Lady appeared. She basically explained that humanity is standing at a giant fork in the road. Path 1 is that horrifying destruction he'd been seeing. But Path 2? Path 2 is an awakening, a totally new level of consciousness, a return of what she called the divine feminine, to bring balance back to our world and eventually peace. So, if we're at this cosmic crossroads, how do we know which way we're headed? Well, Bledsoe says the Lady gave him some very specific signs to watch out for, like a roadmap for what's to come.
She told him a sequence of events was coming. It would start, she said, with an exchange of missiles between Iran and Israel. After that, the phenomenon itself would start to intervene more directly to keep things from getting too out of control. Then, miracles would start to happen. And finally, all the hidden darkness, all the deception in our world, it would all be brought out into the open for everyone to see.
This brings us to what Chris feels is his mission right now. He believes he's been asked to help create something like a modern-day miracle of the sun. You know, like the famous event at Fatima? The goal is to actually film the phenomenon, to get the Lady herself on camera and provide the world with tangible, undeniable proof.
But this message wasn't all about grand prophecies and global events. It was also deeply, deeply personal. In fact, you could make the case that the single most powerful piece of evidence in this entire story is the profound change that happened inside Chris Bledsoe himself. I mean, the contrast here is just staggering. Before all this, he described himself as a guy with no empathy, a hardened businessman totally focused on the bottom line. And afterwards, he's a completely different person. He's a man who feels so much empathy he cries when he sees an animal hurt on the side of the road. His entire life shifted from being about himself to being about helping others heal. It was a complete personality transplant.
And what's more, he discovered that the contacts seemed to unlock these latent psychic abilities, things like remote viewing. He actually thinks this might be a huge reason for all the government secrecy. I mean, just imagine a world where millions of people suddenly realize they have these abilities. That's a world that's very, very hard to control.
So all of this, it leads to a radical new way of thinking about what the word disclosure even means. We all tend to think of it in these very physical, nuts and bolts terms.
For most people, this is it. This is disclosure. Some government official at a press conference finally admitting, yep, we've got crashed ships and alien bodies. We're all kind of waiting for somebody else to give us the answers.
But the message that comes through the Chris Bledsoe experience is that if we're all just sitting around waiting for that kind of disclosure, we are missing the entire point.
See, according to this, true disclosure isn't something the government gives you. It's an internal spiritual awakening that happens inside of us. It's the collective light bulb moment where we realize we are not alone, that we're so much more than these physical bodies, and that we are all connected to a universal consciousness. It's not about being afraid of aliens. It's a fundamental shift in our hearts and minds that happens through love and connection.
And that leaves us with this one final, really powerful question. Chris Bledsoe's journey started with one man's desperate cry for help, and it led to this massive message for everyone. It suggests that maybe the greatest secrets in the universe aren't out there somewhere in space, but they're right here, waiting to be unlocked, inside every single one of us.